Well, this is fun. A little bit of a different and unusual morning, but I was saying earlier, this is just reminiscent of the early days when we started 14 years ago. So what I wanted to do, I wanted to just begin today's Field Trip Sunday. I wanted to ask you guys, how many of you remember going on a field trip when you were in school? Yeah, pretty much. It was pretty fun, right? Because a field trip is a break from the ordinary, right? Something different and unusual. Merriam-Webster defines a field trip like this: a visit made for the purposes of first-hand observation. And I remember as a kid going to Niagara Falls, right? So most of you have probably been there. Niagara Falls is it's something you can read about. You can hear about how many gallons per minute and all of these facts and the height of it and all that. But it's something to stand beside it and to feel the vibrations and to have the moisture hit your face. And really what we wanted to do with this field trip was give our church family an opportunity to experience the property and the building that we purchased a number of years ago, to bring up to speed. How this came about, this crazy idea came about 5 weeks ago. I was sitting in a meeting with Adam McEnroy, our board chair, and with Greg, our elder chair, and we were saying, we have 400 to 500 people who call Pathway Church home, who volunteer, give, serve, show up, bring their kids, all this stuff. And many of these people have been praying for, giving towards, helping with this church to build this community. And they've never been to the property. And so all they've heard is updates and drawings. And we said, Adam's like, well, why don't we just get 2 buses and just move everybody over there during church and do tours? And I thought to myself, that's crazy. I envisioned stuff like this happening. And I thought, what do we do with the kids? And what about people who have mobility issues? How do you get them on the bus? You know, how do we organize it all? And I remember I just thought, okay, let's do it. Right? let's do it. And so we decided to do that so that people could be able to be on the site and to see it for themselves. The plan for this morning is simple. I'm going to take the next 10 minutes to share with you a bit of the story of Pathway Church. How did we get here? And then Adam's going to come up and share, as a representative of the board, some of the details around the building, mortgages, construction timelines, how we've gotten where we are, and what's coming next. So I just thought, as the lead pastor, that I would share a little bit about the vision and the heart for why we do what we do. I have one verse. It's found in 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 9. I'll throw it up on the screen. And Paul the Apostle says this. I love this. For we are God's fellow workers. And I want you to take that in, God's fellow workers. We are working with God. There are 2 extremes within the church. There are people who go, I'm going to sit here in my lazy boy and I'm going to wait for God to do everything. That's not what we're talking about. Other people go, no, I'm going to put this thing on my back and I'm going to carry it and I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to fix it, right? Both of those are not right. We are God's fellow workers. What that means is that we're trusting God, we're looking to Him for guidance and instruction and empowerment, but then we also got to put our work boots on, get our hands dirty, and do some stuff, right? So this is partnership with God is what we're talking about. So he says, we are God's fellow workers, and then he says this, you are God's field, God's building. God is in the business of building things. He's in the business of building things, but not with bricks, not with mortar, not with shingles. But what God is building is He's actually building a church, which is actually a community of people. A community of people who are working together on mission and following Christ. And so God is actually building a church. So I wanted to start with this statement. We today are not visiting a church. We are the church visiting a building. That's really important. Because as you're going to hear in just a moment, this church has been around for 14 years. And 14 years we have been a legitimate church doing ministry, seeing lives change, and we've never had a building. So you don't need a building to be a church, but a building becomes a tool to expand our reach and what we can do to serve our community. So we're excited about that. And as I said, after we do all our talking, you guys will have the opportunity to jump on a bus and go see it for yourselves if you would like to do that. So I guess let me share with you a little bit of the story. About 14 years ago, around May of 2010, I had gone to Bible college. I'd served as a pastor when I was younger, got married, moved to Peterborough, and I was in business for 10 years. And around the 10-year mark, things were going great. I really sensed God speaking to me, calling me back into ministry. And so I went to my pastor, Pastor Brian Mahood at Selwyn Church, and I said, hey, I feel God calling me back to ministry. I'm going to leave business, go into ministry. Can I come work here? Can I serve you? What can I do? How can I be part of what God's doing here? And he said, I don't think that's right. Keep praying. So, okay. So I kept praying, and as I prayed and sought God, I really began to get a vision for forming a new church in the city of Peterborough that was a different focus than Selwyn Church. And I thought, this is crazy. If I bring this back to my pastor, he's going to be like, that's a bad idea. I brought it back and I shared, this is what I believe God's leading me. And he said, I believe that's right. Keep praying, keep working on this. So then through numerous conversations, he asked me, what do you need to do this? And I said, well, there are 4 young couples, all in their 20s, in Selwyn Church that my wife and I have been involved and invested in, and we'd love to invite them to come and be part of this thing with us. And he said, absolutely, go ahead. And so we did. So I got a picture of it. We'll circle back to some of the other stuff, but I got a picture of the team that we'll throw up. And there they are. Look how young they are. Look how young I am. I'm over there. Everyone was in their 20s, starting young families. So this was the team. Now, what was unique about, as I was praying about what Pathway Church would look like. See, I believe that every local church in a community has a different calling, right? Like different churches, they're all part of one big family. They're all part of God's kingdom, but they have different focuses and emphasis. And for me, there were 3 things that stood out, and I want to share those with you really quickly. And I don't have the greatest words for it, but I thought this would be helpful. Number 1, that Pathway Church would be a front door ministry. Let me explain what that means. We wanted to be the kind of place where if you're working with somebody and they're like, hey, I'm interested in God, that you could be like, come to church with me on Sunday. Just come to Pathway, come check it out, come hear the gospel. And so every single Sunday, we do everything we can to make sure that the place, the environment, the message, the worship, everything is as accessible as possible so that people who maybe have no faith or have had a bad experience with church who come and hear about Christ. Over the years, I've heard many people say to me, they say, hey, you know what? I got my son, he's 25, and I really want him to come to my church. I love my church, but I'm sending him to Pathway because I think that's the place where he's going to be able to hear about Jesus. And I'm like, that's amazing, because we wanted to be a front door church where people could come and hear, and that's been part of our driving force. The second thing is that we wanted to be a next generation focused church. What that means is that we are purposely investing in the next generation, in our teens, in our kids, in our young adults. Every church, the culture of churches is often to service the needs of the people that are currently there, right? So if everyone in your church is a senior, then you're going to have senior ministries and bingo nights and all that stuff. It's fun, it's great, it's community, there's nothing wrong with that. But as a church, we're instead of servicing our needs and what we want to do, we want to invest in the next generation. That's going to be the heartbeat of this church. And so no matter how old the leaders and the pastor gets, we're still going to just keep pouring resources and energy and time and attention back into the next generation, because we don't want our faith and we don't want this thing to die with us. So next generation focus. The third thing is that we want to be a church that's for Peterborough. That's the wording we're using, but it's this idea that we want to be the kind of church that is not just, has a physical presence, but that we have a tangible presence in the community. So we're a kind of church that's involved in coaching Little League, involved in community events, that we're out on the streets. We're not hiding in our building having worship services, but we're actually out in the community being part of it. So with all that, let me just walk back through some of the milestones in our past. And as I said last Sunday, Joshua in Joshua 24 said, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. But before he made that statement, he walked them through all the ways that God had been faithful through their history. So I wanted to do that real quick today. In May 2010, as I said, we brought that idea to Pastor Brian. In August, they sent us out and prayed for us. I think there's a photo of that coming up here. See, there it is. So the church at Selwyn blessed us, sent us out with their blessing and support, which was absolutely amazing. September 2010, we had our first service. So we got a picture. Here's our launch service. There's Alan Rea. The crowd was it was a little bigger than this, actually, on the first service. We started with like 75 on our grand opening. It was mostly friends and family, and within a couple weeks, we were down to about 30, which was awesome. And then it took us quite a while to grow into a thriving community, but what's crazy is, so we started in September of 2010. In April of 2011, so like 6 months in, we decided, because we wanted to be for our community, that we would host a citywide egg hunt. Any of you remember that? a couple remember that, yeah. So we ordered 10,000 giant eggs and candy, and we rented Beavermead Park, and we put eggs all over the place. I'll show you a picture. This was the volunteer team. Now, in case you think, wow, that's a lot of volunteers, we borrowed half of these from other churches, just to be clear. So this was basically most of our whole church. And then we invited the whole city, and the whole city turned up. It was absolute chaos, but we learned a lot, and we continued to. We did that 3 more times. We did 4 giant egg hunts for the city. And you go, well, why is the church doing an egg hunt? Because we wanted to let the church know we're here for you, and we want to be part of this community, and we want to make a difference here, and we want a relationship with you. These are the kinds of messages we had hoped to communicate with that. So fast forward 5 years. 5 years of doing church, doing egg hunts, doing different things in the community, supporting local partners. 5 years later, we grew from 50 people to about 175 people. And at that point, we realized that, again, we were doing portable church, so we were setting up this space, we were setting up all the classrooms for kids. And so we were doing all this portable stuff, and we realized that we had these like plywood bins with old casters on them, and we realized that we needed to mobilize and get organized. And so what we did, we made our first major investment as a church. We spent almost $75,000 on equipment and storage bins. You'll see some of them if you turn around and see on the back wall, these black carpeted bins. That's about half of them. There's more all through the building. And all of our gear gets stored in those bins. All of those bins get rolled up behind these curtains and stored on the stage every week. You go in and out. I got a time lapse here, so I'll show you. Check out this time lapse. You might have to put the video lights on so they can see it. Yeah. You kind of get to see it. There it is getting rolled out. All right, service time. There we go. Now everyone's leaving, and you can kind of see everything gets torn down, put all the way back. They're going to roll these bins up onto the stage. Yeah, and Jason's so excited to be done after 7 hours. Now I got one more time lapse. Now what you don't see is that in the back classrooms, yeah, you can leave those lights down and play the next one for me. Thank you. There we go. So the same thing's happening in a whole bunch of classrooms at the back, right? So all the chairs and desks and shoes are being moved. Bins come in, they roll up curtains, flooring. Mish really wants a building. Yep. So we made this huge investment, and we didn't know at the time. We're like, how long are we going to be portable? Should we spend all this money? Well, it's been 8-9 years now, and we're still using it every single week. And so that's been a blessing to us. And then September 2016, so a year after we got all this equipment, the church was growing again, we had to actually go to 2 services. And going to 2 services sounds easy, but it actually was hard because all the people that had built the church together were like, we don't want to be separated. We don't want to be in 2 services. We're not going to feel like one church anymore. It's going to change. And all that stuff happened, and we talked through it as a church, and we ended up going ahead with it because as a church, we were committed to making space for others. And that's just the heart of the people here. And so we did that, and we made the space, and we brought everyone in, and we went to 2 services. A couple of years, fast forward a couple of years to 2018, I'm almost done. And we started something called the Stretch Campaign. We realized that if we didn't do something significant to raise money, we would be renting facilities forever. And so we started the Stretch Campaign. I got a little graphic here. Some of you will remember this. This was our sort of target. If you throw up the next one for me. There it is. So we were trying to raise $1.75 million in total giving. So that was more than we would normally bring in over a 2-year span. And that extra that we were bringing in would get set aside, $600,000 for the future. Because we knew, hey, some opportunity would come up to buy something or lease something or to figure it out, and we just knew we needed to have cash on hand. And so over a 2-year period, the people of our church raised, we exceeded our goal. I think we ended up with $1.8 something million, and we were able to set aside about $650,000 in cash, which ties in now because 3 years ago, we were able to purchase 5 acres of land with an old school building, an old dilapidated building, with cash, and begin the process of renovating it and preparing for the future. And so today, I'm going to invite Adam, our board chair, to come up and to share some details around that. Hopefully you guys got a handout. It's got a little site plan and map that you can look at, and he'll kind of walk through the process. Again, I guess, yeah, come on up, Adam. He'll walk through a little bit of the history and process, and then I'll come up at the back at the end and close. Thanks.
Hey, I'm live. All right. So as Nate said, my name's Adam. I've served on the board since 2021, and currently am serving on the board as the chair. My goal in the next 10 minutes is to take you through 3 years, from 2021 and the purchase of the building on Wallace Point Rd to where we sit today. The scope of what the board has been involved with the purchase of this building includes, but is not exclusive to, the approval of the purchase of the building, managing the changes of the scope of the project, because there's been some changes, the approval and oversight of the construction budget, all while stewarding the resources that you people and the Lord has blessed us with to make sure that the mission of Pathway continues on. Thanks to the Stretch Campaign that Nathan talked about in 2018, we were able to purchase 5 acres of land and an old school building at 3948 Wallace Point Road with the cash we had. So with no debt, we were able to fully purchase the building, and that's what it looked like when we bought it back in 2021. when we purchased the building, the board's vision was quite simple. We're going to put on a brand new roof. We're going to make it weather tight. We're going to just simply get into the building, clean it up, and we'll do all future infrastructure upgrades in the future. We just wanted to get there. Because in 2021, when we bought the building, we were actually a 3-site church. We were using Tallwood for the office spaces for our staff, for board meetings, for weekly meetings, for band practices. We were renting at the time Living Hope, which was where our youth program was based out of on Friday nights. And we were still in REMA for Sunday services for our kids programming on Sunday. And so this building, the idea was that we would use this building, get it updated as quick as possible with some fresh paint, clean it up, make it weather tight, and this would be the home, and we would eliminate 3 rents, 3 locations, and have a permanent home. However, when we submitted to the city for our permits, they said, nope, you need to do a site plan, which was obviously not planned. And without the approved site plan, there's no way that we could do the work to the actual structure of the building that needed to be done. So to give you a sample of what a site plan entails, it includes everything from how stormwater is going to be managed on the property, to what plants are going to get planted, the size of the plants, where the parking lot's going to be, the size of the parking lot, where a septic system's going to go, where the fire trucks are going to exit and enter, and that's just a few examples. So we had it up on the screen there. That is the approved site plan. So it's pretty significant. And it's important to note, none of this talks about what's getting done to the building. It's all exterior to the building. So in December of 2023, we got the approval for the site work. But through 2022, we didn't stop working. We just changed the scope of the project to include what we anticipated was going to be included in the site plan at that time. And so I think we have an aerial photo of the site. This is what the site looked like when we first bought it from a bird's eye view. And the approved site plan came back, as I said, in December 2023, and it included things like stormwater management, which was a big part, which basically meant grading the entire property so that any runoff from the parking lot would stay on our property. It included a brand new septic system and a parking lot that was larger than what was originally anticipated. One of the conditions of the site plan is that it must be completed within 12 months of the approval. So if approval of December 2023, we have until December 2024 to actually get it done. So to move the project forward and the renovations on the building, we had to complete the requirements set out by the site plan. In January 2023, we went back to our general contractors and said, this is what we think the site plan is going to require. Can you give us an updated budget? Because this is clearly beyond the scope of what we originally thought. The budget came back in January of 2023 at $2.5 million, significantly more than what we had anticipated. This budget allowed for all the site work to be completed, along with a full upgrade of the existing building, including electrical, HVAC, plumbing, etc. At the time, though, we only had $1.5 million in cash and financing on hand. And as a result, we as the board met to discuss options. Our objective was to find a balance between investing in the future in the building, while at the same time staying focused on the mission and the ministry of Pathway. We evaluated several different options and then decided to complete the required site work. But in order to finance and have the capital to do that, we'd have to adjust what we were doing on the actual building. This is what the site currently looks like. I think we have a new aerial photo of the site. So this is what it looks like a few days ago. As you can see, there is a parking lot there. That's the proper sized parking lot, scoped out to the approved site plan. The drainage has been fully installed. That's in the bottom left corner there. And then at the top left is also the septic system that's also been installed. All this has been done and it's been paid for. One of the tensions that we as a board felt and we as an organization and ministry felt in January of 2023 was that we were working between 3 sites. We were working between Tallwood and the office spaces it provided, the meeting spaces during the week. We were meeting at that time, Living Hope, Living Hope was still last year, was for our youth programming during the week, and REMA during Sundays. And although we weren't able to afford the entire project, what we decided to do was what is now known as the West Wing phase. And so you do have a handout in front of you. And so just to give you a sense, on the one side, the site plan progress, everything in yellow is phase 1, the West Wing phase, which is what we're working on right now. But if we flip it over, we actually have the building layout, okay? The existing building is the yellow and the green. The yellow is what we are tackling at the current time. And the idea and the strategy behind this from a board perspective was this provides our staff permanent office space. It provides us with the space to invest in our youth by having weeknight ministries at our facility. It allows us to have a permanent small group space, band practice space, and weekly meeting spaces. It also allows us to eliminate 2 of the 3 rents we're currently paying. So although not ideal, it did serve the function of the church in eliminating 2 rents and pouring into some of the important things that we as a church want to be supporting. We made this decision with the mission of Pathway in mind. We tried to find a path forward that didn't sacrifice the ministry and the mission of Pathway and invest solely in a building. And we made this decision knowing that for the time being, we'd remain portable on Sundays. The new budget came in at $1.5 million, which was accomplished through some significant delays in what the scope entailed. A portion of the HVAC system was going to be delayed. The electrical service upgrade was going to be delayed. We would delay finishing the main washrooms and complete the rough-ins. And so if you're looking at the back side of this, the building, the green spaces is what we were originally going to finish. The green spaces are what we're delaying, okay? The 2 large meeting rooms that would have allowed us to move Sundays from here over to Wallace Point Rd were also going to be delayed. We did include some things, though, that covered the entire building. The first one was the roof. There's no point of upgrading anything in a building if you don't have it watertight. And so this was the original roof. And then we have completed all the upgrades to a brand new roof across the entire facility. We have also updated the exterior of the building, making it watertight. This reduced scope allowed for the budget that met our abilities with the financing and cash we had on hand. And in February 2023, we as a board approved it, and construction began in May of 2023. Since then, construction has been underway. However, with any renovation project, there's been some surprises. Some of the expenses that were going to be delayed into the future, which helped us reduce the scope and reduce the cost of the construction project, were required to be completed sooner rather than later. The first one was the parking lot. The original proposal had a reduced size of parking lot, but when the site plan was approved, it required certain waste or stormwater management processes. And as such, we had to complete the entire parking lot in phase 1 with the West Wing project. It actually brought up the front corner of the parking lot 12 feet to make the grade appropriate so that all stormwater doesn't go off our property, it stays on the property. And then the other one was the electrical system. If you look at the building, we thought, if we're just doing the yellow part, we wouldn't need to upgrade the electrical system. We could work with what was there. It was running the building beforehand. However, once we started the construction, that was not to be the case. So we had to upgrade the electrical system to a 600 amp system that not only requires significant electrical panel upgrades, but it also required a new pole on site, new lines run by hydro, and new feeds into the building. So that is, when you guys get to go over there later on today, that's what you'll see. You won't see the big panel that was first on screen there, that's in the basement. But all the new electrical runs for the entire building, including rooms that aren't finished, have been completed. As we look towards the completion of the West Wing phase, we have infrastructure that is now in place that we didn't envision in 2021 or in 2023, in January of 2023 when we approved the budgets. We have a 600 amp service now to the property. We have all brand new electrical throughout the entire existing building and runs that are already staged for any future expansion. There's a fire protection system throughout the entire building, including spaces that we are not currently occupying, but when we do, it's already in place. Water lines are in place for future expansion, and we have a brand new water treatment system that's installed. Septic system has been installed not only for the existing phase, but also for any future expansion. And the parking lot is adequately sized for our entire existing building, plus part of the expansion. From a financial perspective, where do we currently sit? We currently have $1.5 million in mortgages, half of which is a traditional mortgage through a Christian lending institution called CSS. The other half of the mortgages is through private lenders at 0% financing. These are donors who believe in the vision of Pathway and the purpose that the building will serve in helping people become devoted followers of Christ. Because of your generosity, we are already paying down these mortgages. Well, at the same time, we're paying 3 different rents. This is because of you and your generosity and the partnership in the mission of Pathway. We have officially given notice to Tallwood, and as of May 31st, we will no longer be renting that space and are hopeful that by the summer of 2024, the offices will be in the new building. In terms of tracking to the construction budget and where we currently are standing, obviously we've had several items added back into the scope that were originally out of scope to bring the budget into the $1.5 million. The scope creep has resulted in a new budget of approximately $1.8 million. About approximately $850,000 of this has been used to increase the size of the parking lot, manage the stormwater on site, the septic system, and the significant electrical upgrades. Much of this $300,000 that is required has already been covered through donations, surplus giving, and loads of volunteer labor. But we're still projecting a shortfall of about $75,000, and we'll need your help to cover this. For many of us, the project and the process has been challenging, and emotionally and spiritually. There have been many long meetings, sleepless nights, and countless coffee meetings about how we would move this project forward, and many things that seemed certain turned out not to be. As a board, we are doing everything in our power to ensure that we're being good stewards of the resources that you've donated. That the building and the property that we are developing is not a short-term project, it's a long-term kingdom-focused project. And we recognize that none of this is possible without you, the donors, the families, and the volunteers. So thank you. I know I've covered a lot of material really, really quickly. I'm sure there's lots of questions. Throughout the area, there's question cards. If you don't mind, if you have questions, fill them out. There's a box at the back, drop them into it, and we'd be happy to get back to you with answers. If you want to be a part of the project, if you want us to help in some way, it's a great way to let us know about that as well. So, thank you.
Thanks, Adam. That's really great. So, I'm gonna say a few words, and we're gonna close our time here. Hopefully, if you've got one of these sheets, please take it with you, because as we dismiss, you'll be able to go outside. There's coffee and Timbits and stuff outside. There's a little area outside the front doors, and the other buses will be coming back. There's like 150 people on those buses. I don't know how they all crammed in. So they're going to be coming in, and we're going to do this presentation again. But for those of you that are here, we'd love to have you jump on a bus and head over for a quick 15-minute tour of the property. It's kind of fun to be able to see it and walk around. You'll see the scope of that parking lot is quite massive, and to see all of the work that's been done is pretty significant. So like Adam said, if you have any questions, either come chat with one of us or fill out one of these cards and drop it in the box at the back. We also have these little prayer cards. We'd love for you to just take one of these home with you. You can pin it on your fridge or put it somewhere where you'll see it. And we just have three prayer requests. We're just asking our people who are part of this church and who are invested here to pray for a speedy completion of the project. That would be super helpful for the provisions, for all of the expenditures that have surfaced, and then also for the increased impact that God would use our church community and this building and property for many decades to come for His purposes. So be asking you to do that. So I guess what I'll do is I'll close in prayer and we'll dismiss. For those of you watching online, just hang in there. We got a video tour that's going to come up for you to watch, and so don't rush away. And everyone who's here in the building, we can head on outside. So let me pray. Father, thank you so much for this morning, for the opportunity we have to gather as a church. And Lord, we thank you for how you've been faithful in the past. You've led us through on nearly 14 years of growth, of change, of ministry. We've seen so many dozens of people baptized, lives changed, young people come to faith. God, we're just so thankful for the impact that you're having on this community and that we get to be part of it. So Lord, we just ask for your provision. We ask for your guidance as we continue to move this project forward. Would you bless this property that we've purchased, and that it would be useful for your kingdom for many decades to come, serving our community and serving your kingdom. And we pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen. Awesome. All right, I'm standing on Wallace Point Road. Looking behind me is the new building. As you can see, the roof and the exterior has been redone, which is great. This is the roadside, and you'll see the parking lot comes around the building. You can see over here they had to raise the grade on the property a lot to get all the water sloping towards the back corner, which you'll see in just a moment. As you can see, the size of the parking lot is significant. This was a fair bit of cost for us as a church to prepare all this for future expansion. This is the property. As mentioned in Adam's presentation, a big part of the cost in this initial phase of construction was the site work and the stormwater management. So the entire parking lot is sloped off into the back there. And if we get a little closer, you'll see there's a ditch leading back to a stormwater pond that holds all the water. All the runoff from the property stays on the property. This was a big part of completion. Then, of course, all the septic and septic tanks, which I'll show you in a little bit. You may be wondering about the big mound of soil in the background. That was all taken off the property as they leveled it for the stormwater management. All of that pile is supposed to be carted away at some point when they come back to resurface the driveway. So they're going to be putting crushed asphalt and packing it on top of this gravel base, and that will be our parking lot for the near future. Eventually in phase 3, when we put on the addition over here, we'll put a top coat of asphalt and draw the lines and do all of that in the future. All right, I'm standing in the parking lot looking at the back of the original school building. As you can see, we have a new entrance here, sidewalk leading up to it. We've got taped off. If you drive by, you'll see the future addition is kind of marked off for people to just kind of get a scope of where it'll be. There'll be accessible parking and then the main entrance, and then more parking will wrap around the back of the building. So it gives you a sense of what will be in the future. You walk in here. So this area will have benches and gardens to come into the building. And this will be our short-term entrance until we build an addition. So this will be used. So let's head on inside. So this, we step inside, this is gonna be just a main hall. And I can overlay some photographs of what was here before, but you'll see we've raised the roof as we added trusses, insulation to the ceiling. And this will be our main entrance. It's just being painted. Flooring will come next. Up here, we'll have double doors going into a meeting room. And this is in phase 2. we will finish this space. It's about 70 by almost 30 feet long, lots of nice windows. And so this will require drywall and a heat unit. So for heat and air conditioning, and drywall and flooring. That's pretty much it. It's all pre-wired and insulated and ready to be used. So right now that will be a construction zone, but we're hoping to get the west wing open, which includes this main hall. There's an entrance to the front of the building. This construction door will be closed off. Behind are 2 washrooms, men's and women's washrooms, and then access to the original schoolhouse, which I will show you. I guess I can show you now. So let's head up in here. This is the original schoolhouse that was built on the property. It's a really nice space. It's full of construction materials right now. But this will eventually be finished into a chapel. There'll be a stage on that end, and about 90 to 95 seats in here. And we'll be able to have worship services, youth services, all kinds of things, weddings. So this will be really lovely. This is in phase 2. We'll clean up this. Beneath this particular room is all of our electrical water services, which are all being upgraded and new. So this is the area of the building. It's a little dark in here, but this is going to be our accessible washroom. So we've got all new tile, electric closers are being installed. So now as we come down the main corridor, we have, this is a small group meeting space. It's currently being painted and carpeted and lighting, and this will be a small group room. We have a laundry closet here, which is pretty much complete. Hookups, flooring. This will allow us to do laundry. This is the main hall coming down, and as you can see, the entire building, the roof's been all insulated, complete, all new infrastructure, heating, lighting, electrical, plumbing, HVAC. The complete building will be air conditioned and heated with high efficiency. This is going to be finished out into a kitchen and volunteer area, so for our staff and for events. Across the hall we have an extra washroom here that's being finished out, and this will be our tech and media space. So painters have been in here preparing. We're going to have screens on the wall for a live stream. All of our data servers, internet connections, all that stuff will run from this particular room. All right, coming down the main hall. Off this hall are kids' classrooms. So here's one here. Again, ceiling painted, lights installed, walls still to be painted, and flooring to go in. So that's great. Come in here, you see we cut out the walls and put in these nice big windows and doors. This will be a future nursery. So we've got a nursery space. Again, everything's currently being painted out. This will be a nursing room for moms with a feed from the service at some point. This will be a toddler room, so we've got our little doors here, so another kid's space. Heading back down the hall. This will be one of the larger meeting spaces. Walls have been painted, preparing this room to be used. All the ceilings have been cleaned up. Another kid space and multi-purpose room here. Just connects through to one of the others. And finally, our office spaces. So this will be the general office area. There'll be drop ceiling in here. And then we have 4 offices around the perimeter. Our volunteers have been in here painting and preparing it all. Looks lovely. All right. It's nice to see some finished spaces in this building finally. Here we go. So you can see all the ceilings. Heat systems, so just carpet left. Carpet and hardware. This office does not have any lights in it yet, but you'll see we have another office there. you can see, all new electrical panels been installed. And this is just a small one, because there's a large one in the basement. I'll overlay a graphic of that. So you can see the scope. In the ceiling, this is something I think is really important to point out. In the ceiling, you can see the electrical infrastructure and the plumbing. This is all going out the back. And that, turn it this way, all this stuff is going out the back, and this will be for the future addition. So one day in the future, this won't be a back door, this will be the way into our offices and kids area. Because as I come out this door, we will be standing inside the lobby of the new addition. There'll be a kitchen over there. And then this entire area would be a large auditorium with 300 seats. And then a large lobby that would take us all back out into the parking lot. So you can see where we are here on the property. So I'm just walking around in the future lobby. Here we go. And then the front doors would come out here into the parking lot and attach to this sidewalk. Well, I'm not sure how much of that translated into video. Happy to have lots of people in our church here this Sunday morning walking through the property, seeing it for themselves. It's a little bit muddy in the back. We can show some overhead shots if we can get them of the septic system. There's not much of the 5 acres here that has not been dug up, touched. We have a massive septic system installed and ready to go, which will handle our building, both phases, plus the future addition. We have our stormwater, which will handle everything, and the majority of the parking lot subgrade is down. The electrical system is being upgraded to handle everything we have now and into the future. So we've spent a lot of money preparing for the future, and we believe that the future is bright, and we just want to thank you for your support, for your encouragement and prayers, and ask you to continue to pray. We're handing out prayer cards today. And we really are just encouraging people to pray. Pray for a speedy completion of this phase. Pray for the resources that we need to complete this phase and whatever comes next. And also to really just pray that this building would be a powerful tool for sharing the gospel and bringing the kingdom to our community. The building's important. We're excited about it, but it is not our ministry. Our ministry is sharing the gospel with those around us, and we've been doing that for 15 years without a building, and now we hope to be doing it with a building. And so I just want to thank you and invite you to continue to pray. Thanks for all you've done, and we look forward to what's ahead.